I Want to Jump Like Dee Dee, with me, Giles Sibbald, is the music podcast that does music a bit differently. I'm talking to some incredible musicians, DJs and producers about how they use an experimental mindset to fuel their own creativity, pursue new challenges, overcome fears, bounce back from mistakes. Regrets, I've had a few. Actually, the night of 3rd of August 1987, and for one thing, my brain is working now, is forever a stain on my gig-going record, and that is because my dad wouldn't lend me his car to get me from my hometown in Lancashire over to Leeds Polytechnic, so going over the Pennine Mountains, to where there was this kind of prospect of a band playing who still, to this day, 35 years on, excite the fuck out of me. In my opinion, no artist or band has really sort of come close to that level of, kind of spontaneous, subversive creativity, where not just the music, but also the song and LP titles, the artwork lured you into their totally, kind of intoxicating and unsettling world. That band, of course, is the legendary Butthole Surfers, and my guest was their bass player from around 87 through to 94, 95. And since then has been involved in numerous projects in bands, including the Jack Officers, Areola 51, Daddy Longlead, Pure Luck, Honky, and the Melvins. Nowadays, you're much more likely to find him with his banjo playing an incredibly powerful and unique blend of solo spacegrass, and it's all on his own terms. So, in time-honored tradition, it's time for me to shut the fuck up and to welcome JD Pinkus to the show. JD, welcome, and thanks so much for coming on and for showing us that amazing backdrop that you have there.
Oh, thanks, man. I didn't know if this was audio or video, but yeah, this is good. I guess I should. This thing's just drying out from the rain. Yesterday.
Oh no, it's fine. No, it's totally fine. It's good to know you do get a bit of rain there as well.
Oh yeah. Which again, I don't. We were talking before you started recording, and I don't like to brag because, everybody I know back in Texas hasn't seen a raindrop or seen the weather drop down below 100 degrees, and here I am drying shit out because it was too cold last night while it was raining here while we were on the porch watching Hillbilly Fireworks, man. Up on Meth Mountain here in North Carolina, Hillbilly Hill. Do
they like the fireworks out there then?
Yeah, it's cool because our dogs are so used to the gunshots that we used to hear out here.
Oh yeah,
I think ammo's too expensive right now, so we don't hear as much of it. But there used to be like a lot of 50 cal shit going on, and then you hear "woo" at the end of it, and our dogs are just at first it kind of freaked them out, but yeah, they and it's also out here we have the blue ghost firefly. And they're here for about 3 or 4 weeks every year.
Right.
They're known for having the longest light display of any of the fireflies. And they make all these trees up around us light up like Christmas trees. It's so amazing. And I think they really feed off of the fireworks. I think that's like a mating thing,
Wow,
it's like
that's incredible.
Last night was so beautiful out here and it actually did rain, and it was in the 70s. And damn, that water was cold. But we were.
Was it?
Yeah.
You got the pool. Yeah. Oh, amazing stuff.
And those are the trees that the bugs, the lightning bugs are in. We actually had our one dog, Chili Boo Boo. She's the hunter. She's the little one, and she was jumping up in the air trying to eat all these fireflies. And we were like, is that toxic? I mean, what?
I was gonna say, yeah.
How many fireflies can a dog comfortably eat? So I don't know, but we did research and found out it was probably okay. But anyway,
that sounds like the title of a Minutemen album. How many fireflies can a dog eat?
I think Mike Watt would have been proud of that. Due to our Butthole Surfers bathroom one time, we changed his name to 360 Watt because for some reason he could get the bottom of the toilet seat and everything all coated. He was a 360 man. I think they had a heavy bean and rice diet on those stores. They jam Meccano. Mike Watt once told me that he goes, "You're not a bass player." I said, "What?" And he said, "You're a bass wrestler like me." And I thought that was now I'm a banjo wrestler too. But yeah, I always appreciated that from him.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, the banjo is. I mean, I know that you know, kind of started playing the banjo when you were early, when you were young. But that the feeling that that instrument gives is, I mean, it's so kind of, for me anyway, so like so kind of symbolic and almost like kind of humbling, and I don't know if lonely is the right word, but you know what I mean. It's a very individual kind of unique instrument.
Yeah, it doesn't ring out as much as a lot of other instruments do, like as far
Mm,
as the sustain goes. So it leaves you
mm,
kind of it leaves you barren a little bit,
yeah.
unless you keep playing it, or like with me, is I use some effects on mine to help kind of fill stuff out. But to
Mm,
me, guitar is kind of sounds old and grumpy, but I just don't hear anybody do anything new on a guitar that
mm,
really does anything for me. Like you mentioned some
yeah.
of the bands I played with, and the one you didn't mention that I recorded with, one of them was Helios Creed,
Oh, of
and
course. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
he actually was somebody that did stuff with the guitar that was very inspirational for all the chrome stuff.
Mm,
I could go on and on about that stuff, and he's an amazing musician. Uh, uh, we, I was lucky enough to jam with him and get into his head a little bit as far as that goes. But I kind of with my banjo between him and a fellow named Danny Barnes, with his
mm,
who produced my first record from the band Bad Livers. He's the one that wanted me to actually make a whole album of banjo stuff for his label
mm,
because he liked my weird little songs.
mm,
And those guys inspired me. But Danny Barnes with his banjo, he's got one called Barnyard Electronica,
mm,
which was like way beyond what I do. And watching him do it live was amazing. And
yeah.
Helios Creed making the instrument sound like the feeling that you want to have, as opposed to what the only tones you're usually stuck with. And so
Yeah.
I like the fact of the percussiveness and the
Yeah.
melodies of a banjo. Just because it's you have different tunings. Obviously, everybody uses their own thing,
Yeah.
but it's like a dulcimer or something like that. It's percussive, holds a
Mm,
melody. Unlike a piano, you can actually bend a note, which is
mm.
one of the things that I can't stand about a piano. Every time I'm listening to something with a piano, I'm like, "Good, just bend it. Just bend that string. Please bend that string." But it's never bent, man. It's never bent. So, but yeah, I uh, the old school banjo stuff. And
Mm,
one thing that Danny said to me, because I don't really know the history as much as he does, and he's like my
mm,
banjo sensei. But when I talked about my limitations in banjo and how I use it, he said actually that's the way that most people played banjo before Flat and Scruggs came around, because once
yeah.
Scruggs started doing that, that it was like what Eddie Van Halen did to metal guitar.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
didn't really hear Jimmy Page doing anything like that. Everything was pretty much his pick on the string,
Yeah.
and he did maybe a bow, but he until Eddie Van Halen came around, then all of a sudden that just changed the whole shape of guitar playing for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Banjo playing was the same thing with Scruggs, but before that, the slaves had them.
Mm,
Then it became the rich people's type of instrument,
yeah.
and then it was since they were around, they were just like the such an expressive way to write music for the folks in the mountains out here. And they do
Yeah.
project more than a lot of things do. They don't sustain so much, per se, but
Mm,
to project without an amplifier, to have
yeah.
something. And I play open back, but for the closed back stuff, and you put on some metal picks, that was quite. You could compete with any other instrument.
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm like a good friend of mine is it's a different instrument, but Dave Barbarossa, who was the first drummer in Adam and the Ants and played in Bow Wow
Oh,
Wow. Yeah.
I saw them play the Fox Theater in 19 like probably 1983 or 84.
Oh, really?
In Atlanta.
Yeah.
What a great fucking show, man.
Oh, it's tremendous. I mean, he's a fantastic drummer, but he said that the like one of the hardest parts to sit with in like as a drummer is the kind of the silence. You know, when you kind of like you sort of miss beats and you have to, because your natural kind of thing is like keep the rhythm going like this, you know. But that silence, you know, it's like the hardest thing to do, but it's also one of the most powerful, because people feel uncomfortable kind of with silence, don't they?
You know what I call it is intense silence. And I always say, like, when I'm talking to a band, I'm like, I want a little gap right there where nobody makes a noise. And I call that intense silence, because to me, that's just what you said. The silence is so powerful.
It's totally powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why one of my favorite albums is Marcel Marceau Live.
Oh, no, yes.
Side 3, man, about 15 minutes into it. Oh, dude, it gets intense. That silence is intense. But no, I'm all about the intense silence. I think that's like, you know, that to me, when I make silence intense, I clear everything off, you know, that I can. There's not going to be any amp noise or anything like that usually, to make it intense silence. But it is kind of moody silence if you leave the amp noise in, I guess.
Moody silence, yeah, that's the So I mean, going back, if we could sort of, you know, when you're a young kid and you're sort of growing up, I mean, what did your you know, if it's not sort of too personal, what did your childhood look like?
Oh yeah, I can't wait to write a book. I can't wait to write a book about that.
The reason I'm asking that,
my child, my sister was very musical. My folks weren't. She was really talented, and she actually played piano and could not bend a goddamn string to save her life. I can't say goddamn because she's a minister. Okay, and never mind that. But she actually, like, I heard pitch and I heard songs. I mean, like, I heard a song I actually just covered on the banjo last year. Elton John, like the song "Leave On," which also is also keys to understanding my upbringing. Why my sister would actually sing that song, but but that bridge over troubled water. I mean, these are like, you know, like the only thing that really stuck with me other than "Leave On," I think, and Elton John, where there was the band actually called America, which when I look back at like 1979 footage of them, that's like everybody wearing like, you know, cut off shorts and a polo shirt, and all these white people on cocaine. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. That shit. But for some reason, I love those guys, and I love the fact those guys all switched instruments and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, anyways, that was my upbringing. I ended up getting an acoustic guitar. I didn't like the teacher was trying to teach me Puff the Magic Dragon, and I thought that song was lame. But now I realize how cool it fucking was. But I think I fired him then through my mom. She was my interpreter. And
just think, if you hadn't fired him, it could have been all so different.
And so then I ended up getting an electric guitar at one point, and I remember this guy in this band that I was a big fan of, Mother's Finest, where they're still playing shows, and they kind of lived down the street from me. The Murdochs did, the husband and wife, and their child now, Dion, who plays drums for him. But he was like the guy at school that was so cool with the fucking roach clip hanging off of his bass and shit, you know, like with a big feather, yeah. But anyways, I loved hanging out with them. But the guitar player, this white guy with a big old like Bob Ross afro, he was super fucking cool. And I remember asking him to play. He was like, "What do you want me to teach you?" And I told him I wanted to learn Brick House. She's a brick in a house. And so I didn't really understand my instrument so well, I guess, back then. Because I was like, when I found out what the guitar part was on that song, I was like, this sucks, man. This is lame shit, man. It was just like Puff the Magic Dragon round 2. And what I really wanted to do was play fucking bass. And so I ended up going, my folks took me to Rhythm City in Atlanta, and I got a Fender Mustang bass that I wish I still had, and a little amp from the band Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Oh,
Which is
wow. Yeah.
no offense to your British friends out there, but they were a band out here, and so I ended up with an amp from one of those guys that had a rope for a handle, like they busted the handle off it. But that's what I played my bass through for a little while, and that's when I realized when I was at Rhythm City, they let me play through something way bigger, and I was like, wow, that kind of makes me want to take a shit. I like this instrument. Yeah. So it didn't sound the same at home, but that's how I got into doing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like when you were kind of growing up, what sort of kind of kids or friends were you kind of mixing with it?
I never really fit in with anybody because my dad. We came from like a Jewish lineage, and we were in the South. And my dad's an atheist. My sister's a minister. Like it was like we didn't really have my folks grew up in the projects. Didn't it was like I didn't really fit. I kind of made my own. I picked up on. We didn't have our own culture pretty much. It was like just pick up on whatever felt right. So I'm just going to the river and smoking weed and jumping off of cliffs and hanging out with the folks I hung out with. I left home at 15 too, so just kind of picked up on everybody else's cultures around the world that I liked and made it kind of my own, I guess. But no, I was definitely I mean I didn't get beat up or it wasn't a hard upbringing or nothing like that. Because I was always the weird kid that I remember there was a rumor that I stabbed somebody at a party with an ice pick when I was in high school, and that wasn't true, but it didn't hurt to have that rumor, I guess.
Have that reputation.
But I just left.
Sort of denied it, but not too strenuously.
Yeah. So I got into the punk rock scene, going to the Metroplex and stuff like that. And I lived downtown for a little while, and realized what it was like to be a stray dog, pretty much. Hoping for someone to give you a little bit of food and all that. And it wasn't that I had to leave; I just did. It was my own choice to leave and do that. So I grew up a little bit quick that way. And my music stuff was all from the East Coast alternative scene of everybody that was coming down. Everybody from DC had initials like GI, DI, STD, except for Marginal Man. Marginal Man had an actual name. But so got a bunch of that stuff. And we had great radio stations. And I had people around me that wanted to play like a drummer that had a huge set. That wanted me to play bass with him, and I didn't realize how much I didn't really appreciate Rush until I tried to play Rush with a drummer that thought he was Neil Peart when I was a little kid. So not a Rush head myself, man. I found that we were limited with our choices. We didn't have like all this like YouTube videos of bands and shit like that. You're just stuck with whatever's on the radio, listening to 96 Rock and hearing all these that was a good station for back then for like the classic rock stuff, but it wasn't the deep cuts, it wasn't all that. And then it's kind of like with TV back then, you had 3 channels, so it's everybody wanted to watch the TV because if you buy a TV then you want to fucking put it on because you bought it. So and there were some great shows like All in the Family, Sanford and Son. I mean, I grew up with Ted Turner in the South, so we got to watch all the shit he liked. So we got Andy Griffith and Mayberry, RFD, and these are all these shows and even the cartoons because usually cartoons were only Saturdays. So
that's right.
You come home from school and there would be a cartoon on his network like Spider-Man. And I look back at it now, and it's like the little football game that I used to have, Coleco. The Mattel one first. I had the Coleco head-to-head. But Mattel, where you just have these dashes, and the one that's blinking is the guy with the ball. And, and that was the high-tech shit,
Oh, I tell you, I mean, I'm 54 now, and I remember like kind of growing up in that era. And
you fared way better than me, man. I'm the same age, dude.
But those sort of cartoons. Christ, there was some wacky stuff going on. There was over here some wacky stuff being created. I mean, just thinking, oh my God, this is just. When you look back at it now, you think at the time it was just sort of like that was what was on. That was it.
Let's keep this going. Let's keep this going here. So this is something that I've delved into in my brain a little bit, and I'd say probably from John Kay from Ren and Stimpy, and listening to him talk about other people's cartoons. And what he was talking about was that, like in the newer, like say Bugs Bunny that comes out, and they don't look anything like the old Bugs Bunny. And it's a group of people, and it's like compromise with them and them and them to on what the final product is going to be. So it's not one person's vision. It's this corporate mess to make sure everything's politically correct. And I worked doing audio on a Disney show called Imagination Movers. And I remember at the end of a line, one of the guys in the band Imagination Movers did he did like something like this at the end of what he said. And they were like, hold on, well, let's do another take of that because we don't know what that means in every country. And I was like, wow, yeah, it's true. It might be like in Turkey, that might mean like fucking put this up your ass or something, or whatever. So that's Disney. But with Ren and Stimpy and all that, and with music, there should only be, unless, I mean, maybe there's exceptions to the rule, and it helps being in a solo project. But to have one captain for the ship instead of too many cooks in the kitchen, all the cliches you hear, somebody's got to take control of it. With me, it was whoever came up with the main part of the song as being the song should take control of it. Unless they say, hey, I can't do lyrics, can you throw some words on top of this? Which was the case with my band Honky. My buddy Bobby, he wrote a song called All for Nothing, and it was about getting dumped by this chick. And I was like, dude, we can't wait till the next time this happens for you to come up with a badass tune. You got to figure out something else that inspires you to do this, what you just did right here. We can't wait 5 years for your next girl to leave you. Some people, I got diarrhea of the mouth, as you can tell. So words come out all the time. Like I said, it helps to have a deaf wife.
No, I remember that there was a in the UK there was a cartoon called you might not have heard of it, called Captain Pugwash, and basically it was like about a bunch of sort of pirates, right? And but two of the characters, and this is what I mean. Like at the time when you're a kid, you're watching this, you don't kind of think, or at least I didn't in my own kind of like naive world. One of them was called Master Bates, and the other one was called Seaman Staines.
Yeah.
And I'm saying I'm kind of saying to my mum, I can't believe what Master Bates has just done.
And she had to keep a straight face.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what's that kids one nowadays that has all that stuff in it is SpongeBob Square Dick.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Or maybe it's a Square Dick SpongeBalls. I don't know, something like that.
We said like again on the back in the kind of 70s and 80s. I mean, I'm a bit actually when I first heard the Butthole Surfers, it was through listening to John Peel. So you talk about kind of when you listen, that was the only kind of
I remember that session, man. That was John Peel session was cool, man.
He said, and I found something that John said about the Butthole Surfers when he went to see you, when he first went to see you, which was, I think it was the same tour that for the one that I missed that I said in the intro.
My first time over there was '86. That's why I got hired in the band when I was I was 17 and joined them at the end of '85. Right before I turned 18, and then our first shows were on the way up to New York before we flew to Europe for the shows that they had.
Yeah,
and so they were Gibby and Paul were 10 years older.
Yeah.
Hey, baby. She's checking out the pool.
Brilliant. Temperature's coming
so
along well.
those guys were 10 years older than me, and Ken was 5 years older than me. Hi, Chili. Here, I'll show you my killer. Here's my killer.
Oh wow! Oh
killer.
Wow! Amazing.
She's the one that was eating all the fireflies.
She's beautiful. Oh right, yeah.
We started doing flips in the yard. We were like, "What is she doing?" And she would just see one light up, and that was enough for her. And her 8-pound body would just be up in the air doing flips, trying to snag those things. It's her first. It's her first time being old enough to see fireflies at it.
Yeah, so she's pretty excited about it all. Yeah,
So to get back to what you were saying about Europe, though, so we went over there, and I was not there in '85 when they went over there the first time. And it's funny, me and Paul are working with Kramer from Shimmy Disc now, and Kramer was in the band for about 6 months. And when they went over there, I believe it was Pukal Pop. In Belgium was the one that they got like crazy reviews for and shit, and the part that was funny that they didn't like so much was that Kramer was in the band Shockabilly, and he just was sitting in with the band, and they were like, "It's Kramer's new band, the Butthole Surfers." So it was like, it was funny the way, like, all that progress for the band, and then all of a sudden it goes down to a guy that was only in the band for like a month at the time, but after all the work they put in.
Well, I remember, like Peel said. He said, "I've got it written down here." He said, "Perfectly." When he saw you in London, he said, "Perfectly extraordinary. I mean, excellent. But if you said that you enjoyed it, I should be seriously concerned about you as a human being."
Which is so funny, because I tell people this, and I guess I can put it on a public forum. But when somebody tells me that they're a Butthole Surfers fan, when I meet them, it's a red flag. Big red flag. I just keep it to yourself. I don't need to hear that. I've been in a lot of other projects too, but yeah, I had some weirdness they got me after I was out of the band on the Butthole Surfers forum, and there was a chick I met when she was 18, I guess, and I remember meeting her. I was when Butthole Surfers played with New Year's Eve with the Cramps and the Dead Milkmen, and I ate acid off of toilet paper, and I was really pissed off that the Cramps had little they had gaff tape X's where they were supposed to stand, and so I'm like tripping, and I knew they weren't going to move off of those X's. Really pissed me off. Anyways, I remember that night pretty well. And this girl, and we never hooked up, we never even kissed, nothing like that. And she ended up getting her purse stolen while she was in like Vietnam or something like that, and she started blaming me as being like a psychic vampire, and I was like, my fault that all this shit was happening, and so of course I left the forum quick after that and forwarded to everybody. When I played in New York, I remember seeing a note she wrote me, and it said, I will not be there at the show because something about the psychic vampire shit. And I was like, I sent it to the other guys. I was like, she's definitely showing up and she's gonna kill me. This is why she sent that letter. Anyways, I stay away from people that were like that into the band.
That into it, yeah.
I understand what the band did for everyone, including me, is that I guess I'm not the only weirdo out there. It gives you that sense of like, I guess, I'm okay. There's others, so that's good. But some of us like to keep our weirdness to ourselves.
Yeah.
Don't want to be approached.
I mean, when you were in there, did you all like live together?
Oh yeah.
You lived together, yeah.
We did not separate money too often. We all lived together, ate together, smoked. That's why we smoked weed so fucking funny, and still do to this day, is that we'd have one bud to split between 4 or 5 people, and you did not want to let it go out of your lungs when you got that one fucking hit.
Yeah.
And so we'd all be like, oh. Yeah, it was just, people would smoke with us. They're like, "What the fuck is wrong with you guys?" And it was just like we had to make the most out of any situation we had. But yeah, we would get mad when somebody wanted to buy tampons, or it's like, well, we can't all use tampons. I'll try and think of a use for one, but if we're not all using them, we're not buying them.
We're not
You
buying.
know?
Well, it's funny actually because like on that, I did an interview with Alice Nutter, who was in the band Chumbawamba, and you know who were from Leeds, and they were sort of, I don't know if you remember them. They're sort of anarchist kind of, no, it's not really sort of punk band, but they were very, very political. But basically, they lived in a squat. They all lived together, and she said at that time, you know, we all lived together. We looked the same. We all, you know, kind of wore black, and we were outsiders. We shared all our money. We just basically put it all into one pot. And she said that there was something just like so powerful about that, about kind of being part of this kind of gang, that they felt all kind of together, and almost like, you know, you could sort of take on the world, if you will, you know, that sort of gang mentality feeling.
That's a really glorified way to look at it. But yeah, I mean, to me, it was like what I try and explain to people is that when they wonder why there aren't bands like us out there, is because we did live together. We put all of our money back into the show. We didn't even sell merchandise because we didn't have room for it in our fucking van. Yeah, we didn't even have to sell shirts, you know, for a long time. But we had enough room to put strobe lights. We had enough room to, you know, fucking put screens and shit. And we put all of our money back into the show because that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
We didn't have like, I got 2 weeks off of work. My wife's cool with me going for a week, man. Yeah, and you can't make a living like that, unfortunately. I mean, maybe you can, but you got to be really damn good if you're going to pull that one off.
Absolutely.
So really, the only way that we could do that before social media, before you know, there was fanzines back then and newspapers. So you know, local music papers too. So the more your name is shown in these papers, and the more interviews somebody does, you know, which is hard to do from the road, because we did eventually have a cell phone for like $5 a minute. You know, like one of the post bag phone things, and I was like, check it out. It was like when you call from an airplane, you're like, you won't believe where I am, man. No, I'm 30 fucking thousand feet in the air, for real. Yeah, but that was what we were like with that fucking phone. It was fucking huge, and you know, we had to get one because we missed a show in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we were just sitting around eating 5-star chili that they had there, and we were sitting around watching TV. We did absolutely nothing that night. We easily could have played a show, but our booking agent couldn't find us. The club couldn't find us. And so the next day when we actually contacted them, they told us what happened. We're like, oh shit, well, we'll play tonight. And they're like, no, you can't play tonight. Well, why not? We're in town. We're free. And we thought the show was tonight anyways. And they said, no, Wang Chung is playing tonight. We're like, well, we'll open for Wang Chung. And they said, no. So we had to stay an extra day. And then it's at Bogart's up there. And so we were kind of grumpy. We hid a bunch of food up in the tiles of the backstage, like all the mayonnaise and bananas and shit up top in the ceiling tiles. And underneath the couch, and you know, whatever we could do to be dicks, and went up on stage and didn't play a single fucking song. We just had mics in front of our shit, ran it through delays. Like I was running around with a mic capturing like some snare drum, and Gibby was running through. It was awful, but we upheld our obligation. And then when we left, we went out and we just had our first RV for a tour, and me and Paul had never emptied the piss tank, and so we decided that was the time we were going to experiment with it in their parking lot.
Oh my god, it's kind of like you had one job to do, and you
yeah. And so anyways, as I digress into this whole story, that's why we ended up needing a cell phone.
Oh come on,
so
I'm intrigued.
I'm intrigued what happened to us or anybody else anymore. But yeah, so anyways, the reason why I got into all that was because the more you're in the paper, the more your name is on the calendar, the more people know you're coming into town. That was our low budget way of advertising for ourselves. And if you couldn't keep on a constant, and the United States is a pretty big area, and when you're driving in a van with no AC and no heat, there is no flyover country. There is a time we went from LA to New York, and that's another really awful story because they cut one of our shows off, and it's actually captured on tape. But there's a piss wand story and nudity and speakers being stabbed at the end of the night and being told we'll never play in New York again. And then we played that Wednesday at the Cat Club. But it was definitely a different time. But yeah, you are in a gang because, as I've told a lot of people, when they ask for advice from somebody that's as old as we are, never run out of weed and always have a common enemy. And we'd always have a common enemy. There was always somebody that we hated more than any one of us in the band. And as long as we all stayed concentrated on that dick from last night, or the guy that we had to see the next night, or whoever it was, as long as we were fixated on being pissed at that other person, we were fine with each other.
Yeah.
But that was close quarters. I mean, we didn't have individual hotel rooms,
Yeah.
So
you're kind of like you're with each other all the time, aren't you?
Yeah. And I was, like I said, I was 10 years younger than these guys. I mean, I'm trying to picture myself doing that when I was their age. When I joined the band, I was living in a warehouse. Actually, I was in an apartment with like 7 other guys. I just left that warehouse. And so they were like, the thing is, we like sleep on floors every night. I'm like, you can promise me a floor every night? I'm fucking in, dude. This is golden. I don't want to overplay my hand, but I'm just gonna.
I'm happy with this.
Right there, man. I remember, like I was so non-worldly at that point in time. I remember driving out of Atlanta, and we were working our way up north on the 85, and I see another town with a 285. I'm like, there's a 285 in Atlanta. They're like, there's a 285 in every town that's on 85, man. I was okay. Yeah, so I was worldly in some ways, but not in other ways.
But not in other ways.
Yeah.
You kind of like saying that about always sort of have another kind of enemy. I mean, when you were kind of like sort of touring around, I mean, did you feel like when you sort of turning up at the sort of the shows, did you feel like you were the enemy, or did you feel kind of like almost like sort of invincible when you were going there?
It depends. There was definitely a difference when you felt the opposite. Usually we were pretty on top of it and never had any issues. But I can remember a couple of weird ones where we were on the defensive. But I'd say we were pretty much and we pretty much knew. And if anybody wanted to play after us, we felt sorry for them. Because of what we brought to it, and because that was all we did, was that. And we brought 3 movie projectors and fucking fire and smoke and fucking shit being ripped up in strobe lights, and sure, get up there and sing about why your girlfriend left you.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of times. One time, I was just telling a story the other day, that's why it's fresh in my head. We had a string of later day runs with like Stone Temple Pilots and Nirvana and Pearl Jam, and I remember we didn't practice at all before the Pearl Jam one, and we went out there. It was in Tempe, Arizona, fucking still really fucking bright outside, and all these like it looked like the crowd from the band America I was talking about. There's like a bunch of white dudes with polo shirts and fucking Bermuda shorts instead of cutoffs, all probably drinking Keystone Light instead of fucking doing cocaine though. But I remember playing, and we were not good.
Hey, got you again. Got you.
Sorry about that. My phone got too hot. I have that effect on people. What's that? Oh yeah, that's true. That's all right. She said the front porch is cooler. I forget about how sensitive these iPhones are when you put them in the sun. I'm tougher than my iPhone, man.
That's true, actually. It is true. Yeah, they do get out very
Uh,
hot.
so, anyways, I'll finish my story. If I recall, I was talking about Pearl Jam and
You
doing the show with them, and somebody saying, "You suck," and I got really upset at first in my head, and then I was like, "No, this guy in the fucking polo shirt's actually correct. We actually do suck." So,
yeah.
but it was hard to tell if Butthole Surfers sucked, but I could tell if we sucked. But for anybody else, that's a tough one, you know. And then there was, you know, you talk about John Peel, and I always, the first thing that always comes to mind was when we did the Peel sessions was him going, the next song I'm going to play is N-triple-E, N-triple-E, because we had a song called Nini. And because I wrote that one, and it went nee 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 nee. So that's why we called our song stupid shit like that. But I just loved hearing him make it so proper, like N-triple-E, N-triple-E.
Brilliant.
But yeah, but that was cool. He was definitely fucking cool to help us out like that.
Yeah. There was there was another where I was brought up in Lancashire, which is in the north of England. There's another local show called On the Wire. This guy Steve Barker, who was, he kind of introduced me to. He's still going. He was on like local radio Lancashire on the BBC, but then there was a load of fucking around. Anyway, he's still doing his show, but he's like just really experimental, and he kind of like introduced me to like all these other bands. He was big into the, kind of Adrian Sherwood dub, all that sort of genre from sort of 85 onwards, Bim Sherman, all that kind of stuff. Really, like, but those kind of people were just so amazing for how they used to research and delve and listen to music and just put it out there so that people like me could pick it up.
Which brings me to an interesting point now. Like, there was a day, and I don't know, maybe it's still this way now, where if something was on Touch and Go Records, people bought it because it was on Touch and Go.
On Touch and Go,
if it was on AmRep, people bought it because it was on AmRep. Sub Pop because it was on Sub Pop. They liked what they did. Now, I don't think there's as much of that going on.
No, it's true.
Maybe there is. I'm just not hip to, I remember the first time someone told me what grindcore was, It was many years ago, but I had no idea. I was like, really? That's what Soap Dodgers make music doing? Yeah, but so I'm actually more of a body wash guy, so I'm kind of a soap dodger myself. No offense to anyone.
So kind of like when you left the Butthole Surfers and then what did you take from those years, that sort of experience, into then how you started to live your life after that?
Oh, that's a good question, because you're only as good as your last record. And being in a band like Butthole Surfers, where we didn't have credits or nobody knew what songs I wrote or what I did in the band, I pretty much had to start from scratch again.
Yeah,
it was very humbling at that point, because even though I had spent I guess 9 years or whatever in the band, at that time, technically I'm in the band still, but
with reunions
but after
a
12-year hiatus, I played some shows, but we don't really play any shows anymore. But I do talk to Gibby and Paul a lot. But yeah, it was very humbling to leave and have to start something new with the way we did business, and also to, like, I think I stepped away from some of the effects and stuff like that for a while, because I wanted to separate I wanted to get weird musically, but without using all the effects and doing that. So I did my band Daddy Longhead was kind of like that. Had some personality issues with that band, and at the same time was doing some project called Skinny Leonard, which was a lot of fun with like 5 guys, but one guy got thrown in jail and blah, 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 all that stuff happened. And so I ended up with my band Honky, which has been around since, I guess, 96 or so. And that was just the least affected groove groove project, rock thing,
Yeah.
that I really enjoyed doing because it just kind of like cleared my head
Mm.
from the wash of delays and
Yeah.
everything else. And as I told the guys in the band, we'll just, if you want to use that stuff, let's just bring it in gradually, and
Yeah.
we'll start off with just a 3-piece rock band straight up, and all into syncopation, as my ex-father-in-law used to call it. Dumb eights were like my nemesis for bass. I hated dumb eights, and that's dum 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 dum, like AC/DC bass lines and
Yeah.
shit. So syncopation and stuff was really really key to me, which meant you had to have
Yeah.
a drummer that understood what that was. Now you were talking about intense silence, so
Mm.
it's like listening to a country band with a drummer that has a stand-up bass player. Technically,
Yeah.
he should be taking care of all that stuff on the bass. And if he has to not slap the bass because he's got a drummer hitting that snare instead, then that's
Mm.
really, that's a different brand of music. To me,
Yeah.
it's taken away a lot of what the the stand up bass player was supposed to do. Yeah,
Mm.
I love the slap part of it. And you always have, like, I'm friends with a fella, Billy D, that was the Gillies band director for many years in the 70s down in
Yeah.
Houston. And to him, the bass drives the band, the bass drives the drummer. A lot of bands, you'll see the drummers driving the band, and
Yeah.
that's, it's a total different feel when you have it different ways. And
Yeah.
it was tough for me to find people that, because I write a lot on the bass, that didn't listen to guitar. They would
Mm.
listen to the bass, because a lot of people, the guitar players write the songs. So you find a drummer that's
Yeah.
listening to the guitar player and he's not paying attention to some shit you're doing. Then it's you can't really blame the drummer. It's just kind of how, who you've jammed with before,
Yeah. Yeah.
who wrote the shit.
Have you sort of, I mean, because I've sort of felt, I was going to ask you about, kind of like who you are as a person, your kind of like identity and stuff, and because I've sort of felt as I've got older, sort of things, and I think identity does, your identity does kind of change, and I felt myself, sort of changing quite a lot, with what I want from life,
Yeah,
how I live it, what's important to me,
definitely, definitely.
all that sort of stuff. I mean, what's your experience been?
My experience has been, like, to me, when I see people that are one-sided, or at least pretend to be, like they're only into metal music, or they're only into this or that, or
Mm, mm,
these things. One-sided could be many different parts of your life, but to me, the reason I can jam with Honky or Butthole Surfers or Melvins, or do my solo banjo, or do all these other projects, is because I believe there's a lot of different sides to me that I want to get
yeah.
out.
Mm,
And you don't realize it as much when you're young, because you're kind of in a race. I guess it's the hormones, and I want to be the
yeah.
best band in this town. Our
Yeah.
band doesn't open for anybody, motherfucker. And then you get older and you just want everybody to do really good. And I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And I had some kind of, like, sound like a fucking douchebag when I talk about it. But I went down to Peru and did some ayahuasca
Oh, Alaska. Yeah. Yeah.
years ago. I've done
Mm,
done 10 journeys, I guess, down in Peru,
mm,
doing that, and that really helped put a lot of things in perspective. I mean, when you experience a death experience, and you experience
yeah.
some other things, and uh, realize the importance of certain things, it changes your life for the better, for sure.
Can I ask? Was it
I'm
when you did your first ayahuasca experience? Was there a certain event that sort of happened, or was this sort of like a gradual thing that you were just sort of thinking, I need to do this because this is right for
Now,
me?
my friend actually told me I would really like it, and I went down with very little knowledge of what it was,
Yeah.
and I refused to listen to the Icaros, which are the songs that they sang down in Peru, the
Yeah.
Shipibo tribe that I did it with. And actually, there's a song that's on my Fungus Shui, the first one, the Fungus Shui Trinity,
Yeah.
which was actually a song that has "Don't Forget to Breathe" in the middle of it, and that was from my collective musical experience down in Peru. And I did that song with the Melvins on an album that they named after me, Pinkus Abortion Technician, because I
Yeah.
guess either I'm an abortion technician or it was the guy who fucked up on my abortion. I'm not sure, but how that was Buzz's idea to name it that.
Yeah.
But that song was from the melodies, like not a single one, but just like from the Icaros that I heard when I was down there. And "Don't Forget to Breathe" is kind of just all you can do when you're that far gone. Just don't forget to do that one thing, and you'll be fine. So that was kind of a important message for me to myself, and I felt like it could help other people out. You'll get through stuff as long as you just remember to do that one thing. And so on my tombstone, of course, it's going to say "Forgot to Breathe."
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What date I forgot to breathe on will probably be on there. I don't think they'll have a statue of me at Hellfest, though. Maybe a mushroom instead. But yeah, the mushrooms are a big part of my life, and hence the Fungus Shui and all that. The whole album is not maybe even as psychedelic as my Keep on the Grass album, but to me, if you get into the weirdness of the way spiritually plants are looked at, the ayahuasca is the mother plant. It's the female entity, and mushrooms are a male entity. They get along well, according to the people there in Peru. When I was there, they had experimented with marijuana being involved in the ceremonies. And as our female director said at the time, she said, "Well, just picture it as two girls in a room that don't like each other." And so mushrooms are a way to keep the mental aspect and the healing of what the ayahuasca does to your neurons in your brain, and finding ways to fire and keep things going. And it definitely got me to clean up my life in a lot of different ways. And it wasn't easy, but yeah, it definitely was a big inspiration to me. Like, and my truck is, I can see it over there. That's back there.
Got it.
Down, that's my 91 F-150. That's what I tour in. That's what I use. That's my main ride. That's my newest vehicle. I have
that's your tour van.
Yeah, I have a 78 BMW motorcycle and a 72 Dodge Palmyra package Sportsman 300 van, and those are like that's to me that's success. But I can't imagine all these new cars and all the things that people spend all their fucking ridiculous amount of money on. A new Bronco is like $70,000.
It's insane, isn't it? It's insane. Well, this is the interesting thing, isn't it? When you sort of start thinking about, kind of like the world we live in and the sort of the materiality, and how materiality is so important to so many people. And how you actually, it's this kind of idea of the the hungry ghost. It's basically like the belly never gets full because it's just always hungry, just always wanting more.
Right.
And
right.
Until you kind of find what is true, your kind of true happiness, where you're kind of living your life, I think, like in accordance with your values, where you where everything sort of lines up. That's where you're going to get the true happiness, not through these
I think so too. It's not what anyone else thinks either. I mean, I'll go with the beliefs of how you are inside yourself. If someone, if I play a show and someone says "good show," I know exactly what my show went like. And I was like, no, actually the fourth song I fucked that up. I hit the wrong thing on this. Whatever. But people want to be nice, and I don't judge myself on what other people think of myself. I judge myself on what I think of myself.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think more people should do that. It's not putting on a show. It's knowing that you're being a good person, knowing that you're taking care of your friends and your family the best you
Mm,
can, knowing that you're taking care of your animals. All that
yeah.
stuff is what makes me happy. I just need enough just so I can be happy. I don't, there's nothing material
Do you
to
know,
me that seems worth a shit to have to slave over or to
yeah,
trying to invest in. I mean, that's why my wife and I, she's got an Airstream from 1965, and I've got a
yeah,
73 RV. It's like, well, as long as we got those, we're not homeless.
yeah. That'll
Just
do
we
it.
like
Yeah.
being happy, man. We like being happy.
Do you know, I spent a good part of my life, sort of what you said earlier, but worrying what other people thought,
Yeah, sure.
and it fucking kills you. It restricts you so much,
Yeah,
and it was actually, getting over that. Now I don't care. I don't think I do. Maybe not. I haven't lost it 100%, but I've lost most of it, and that's where then you start to kind of just see things in a better light, and you just think there's just like this weight that sort of lifts off you.
I think so. And like I go back to what I just said, it's like to me being true to yourself and doing what you know is good
Mm,
and being the best person that you can be and the best version of who you can be, which
yeah.
we're human, we go through
Mm,
our our struggles. But as long as you feel good with yourself, ain't no one can bring you down. That's the way I
yeah,
look
totally.
at it.
Yeah.
And people that do want, I've gotten rid of almost all the negativity people in my life, except for the ones that I love so dearly that I can't abandon.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
try not to let the negativity get into my world, and it's so freeing to get rid of the people in your life
yeah.
that don't want to see people do good because they're jealous or whatever, and not me or just if I see them doing that to other people,
Mm,
questioning why they're having success or happiness. Those aren't the people I want to hang out with.
totally, yeah.
I want to see
Yeah,
everybody fucking do good.
yeah.
I'm not in a competition anymore. I think I was. I felt like I was in a competition a long time ago.
Did you?
But I think it's very freeing when you back away from that. And I think a lot of that has to do with age and hormones,
Mm.
and and trying to yeah, just yeah, I guess it's not as easy to do as it
Did
is to say.
did yeah, I mean, did the ayahuasca experience sort of help you with that? About, being in a
Oh,
competition, freeing you?
yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely so.
yeah.
I was already kind of to that point, but that reaffirmed things so much. And to
Mm,
see people going through such struggles that they did, I'm one of those people. I didn't have much empathy. I think ayahuasca helped me with empathy a lot. And
yeah.
I don't even know if I could have spelled the word before I went down there. But that was one
Mm,
thing I wanted to understand. And lo and behold, I got put next to somebody from 7 journeys that was going through some way heavier shit than I could ever imagine.
mm,
And to be there and to try and support and to watch
mm.
this person grow and feel better from it was so satisfying. I think that's
Yeah,
what when you get in that mindset, it's hard to leave it. To know that you
yeah.
can help and you can be there for other people, whatever level you're comfortable with.
It's funny.
So
Like, I got to know this. She's a pediatrician up in Nebraska, I think in Omaha, and she was like a big, kind of supporter and advocate of teaching, think kind of things like empathy and sort of self-awareness, things like that, right from an early age, basically from almost like as soon as you sort of you come out of the womb, and it's like
mhm.
it's so important to kind of start that sort of early, so that that you wouldn't going into adult life, that you understand this and you have an
Sure, yeah,
understanding
it
of
makes a lot of
empathy.
sense.
And you can see, like, can't you, the sort of the effect when there isn't that, the effect through generations. It takes generations for it to fucking
Yeah,
disappear.
and one thing that kept coming into my head, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, that it's way harder to unlearn shit than it is to learn
Yeah,
shit. And
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
think that's the generational break the chain
yeah.
from people that didn't know any better, that might have their own issues that are in places of control or power over you, and you have to understand that, have the empathy for what they were going through that made them like
Yeah.
that, and to be able to
Yeah.
separate yourself and hopefully not carry it on to the next generation.
Yeah.
But again, easier said than done, because
Absolutely. No, it is.
we
Yeah.
all go back to we all go back to the things that when you're hurt, you hurt the way that you remember being hurt. So those are things, again, hard to unlearn. So
Yeah. Have you heard of a lady called Amanda Fielding?
no, I have not.
She's I think she's in the UK. She formed this sort of institute. I think it's called the Beckley Institute. And basically, she sort of had her first kind of LSD experience, thinking like in the 60s, and then basically she sort of formed this kind of institute to to research. She's a big sort of advocate of things like sort of LSD. And she set up this kind of institute to do sort of research into kind of like examining the kind of changes underlying kind of altered states of consciousness and things like that. I'm involved in this in a magazine with youth of Killing Joke, bass player in Killing Joke, and I think we were going to interview Amanda for the next issue that's coming out. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but I think we are intending to do it. I think that would be really kind of interesting to see what sort of
I'd
work
love to check that out.
Doing on that. Yeah, I hope we're going to do it, because I think it'd be sort of really interesting.
I think that'd be helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But, I just don't. Like I was saying, it's like, I think with age, we're both 54. So although you look a lot younger, way to go. But to to be of this age, you see things so much different. But how do you teach empathy to me when I was 20 years old? Those are things that aren't in my brain at that point in time, because I didn't grow up with it. So I would just hope in this day and age that people seeking information would like look into like, what is the definition of empathy? Wikipedia will hopefully get like 3 hits after someone watches this today.
Absolutely. Look into it. Your life will change.
Empathy changed my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but no, it's that, and it did the whole death of ego thing, which was such a foreign concept to me, and I think that's probably one of the more defining things that it does to a person when you go down there and give yourself up to whatever you're going to come across in your intentions. Because basically, when you go down there, they tell you to make a loose intention of what you want to go over for that journey. Again, like I had 7 journeys the first time I went, 3 times the next time. So you go through all the things loosely, and you never know where it's going to end up taking you. And the death of ego thing was something I experienced, but I didn't even know what the words were to call it. It's the redneck enlightenment.
So what else is happening? Are you playing more gigs?
Yes, I am. I'm about to do a tour. I'm going out to Texas to play a show at Ripple Fest. Yeah. Which is going to have tons of great bands out there, and me. It's a 3-day event. That's the first year of doing it. And so on the way out there and way back, I just thought I was going to drive there and drive back. But I got in touch with a friend of mine. Actually, he got in touch with me. And his name's P.W. Long, Preston Long. He was in a band called Mule back in the Touch and Go days with the Laughing Hyena backing bass and drummer. And I toured with him and Mac McNeely a long time ago with P.W. Long and Reelfoot when their bass player keyboardist had mono. So they asked me to come on tour with them. And so we've kept in touch, and this was in the 90s, back way back when. And he hasn't played, I don't think, in at least 10 years, maybe even 20 years. But he's coming out to do a little run with me with another buddy, D Cosmo, who's in Mississippi, artist out there. It's got a crazy, insane, cool blues thing going. And so we're all going to do 3 solo shows to and from Texas. And I'm kind of limited as to where I can play because I got offered a really cool tour with Clutch, Quicksand, and Helmet, opening up for them for a tour, and I'm not allowed to play within 150 miles of any of their shows for 3 months before or 3 months after. So hence, if you happen to be in Tupelo, Mississippi, Shreveport, Louisiana, so basically I'm kind of limited to where I could book my shows.
Well, you can book your shows.
There's so many fans of PW and D Cosmo that would love to see these guys in some of the larger populated cities, but unfortunately I can't do those with them, but hopefully we'll do it again. But then I go on tour with the Quicksand, Helmet, Clutch tour in mid-September to mid-October. And that should be a lot of fun. And I'm sure I'll confuse a lot of people with my banjo and movies that I like to show. And I think I played opening for Weed Eater in Knoxville, and a guy I met and his kid from Chattanooga, Tennessee came up, and the dad was thrilled his kid was going to get to see me, and we talked for a while. And so when the show actually happened, I remember him and his kid were right in front of me, and afterwards his kid goes, "That was weird." And he was very happy that was the response. But I was like, well, good. He understands that part. Yeah. If you thought it was normal, then I would be a little worried about your kid.
I need to go back to the drawing board with this. I need to sort of reassess what I'm doing. This is not working. Yeah.
And, like, to get back to my solo stuff, if no one else has ever done what you're doing, you can't really suck at it until somebody else comes out and does it after you, and then people realize how bad you are. So I'm just going to live with that for as many years as I can. And hopefully I'm going to be doing some honky shows coming up. And there's a fella moving out to these parts that has offered up a really, really enticing offer to get back behind the bass guitar with some of the people he's talking about playing with. Right. Hopefully that will happen, because that would be kind of looking for the right inspiration to do that move. Yeah. Before I set into, I'm so like, all my friends and bands always tell me about how jealous they are that I get to do what I do by myself. And I can drive my 91 F-150 and not listen to anything but the windows down and be totally happy. I don't have to put on music because someone wants me to hear some stupid song I don't really care about at the moment, or listen to a podcast, or do anything, or be in a conversation. I don't have to. I can sleep in the back of my truck. I have a bed back there. It's like it's the most freeing thing to leave by yourself and to be able to go and do something like that.
I think it's like one of the best things to have is to sort of be comfortable in your own company, and just to enjoy that kind of solitude sometimes, just be with yourself.
Totally. Yeah, I relive what I want to relive from the night before, but I don't have to talk about it with anybody. There was one morning. What did I wake up with? I woke up with something next to me. I went out in some weird town. I woke up with some weird bottle of some shit next to me, and I had no idea where it came from. And I was by myself when I woke up. But it was certain nights I just, I only want to ponder for like an hour on what actually happened, and then just move on to the next
and
day.
Just get on with it.
Look out for the next adventure.
Yeah, totally, man, totally. Well, Mr. JD, thanks so much. That's been amazing.
Great talking with you, man. Brilliant. A lot of fun. I keep forgetting we're doing like a thing. But
no, it's terrific, absolutely terrific. Awesome, it's been really.
I hope
wonderful.
You can get something out of it. You can edit around all my miscues and my bad jokes.
Thanks for listening to the show, and I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you'll tune in for the next episode. In the meantime, it would be really awesome if you could rate and review the show, and also share it with any friends who you think might enjoy it.